So welcome all. Good evening, good morning, good night. Now we can start. Okay. So today's topic, which we are going to discuss today, is code to production zero touch. So today's session would be more kind of a theoretical with some industry examples where we will show how code to production without any interface or without touching or without any human intervention is possible and what are its advantages. So we will use some of the standard tools for discussion. So let's get started. So first thing is, what is a zero touch deployment? So when we say if you try to see what is a traditional way of uh, development of software, if we just see the SDLC life cycle, we have a different stages, right from requirement collection to code, unit test, right? Then uh, packaging, and then we do the system integration and then release for the production. So all these processes or like all these steps, uh, they have been there for long time, and as of now, they are different way of doing or achieving each step and validating and then moving to next one. So how does this DevOps helps in zero touch deployment? So if we see normally, if I see your normal SDLC life cycle, there somebody does the code, code is checked in, then somebody reviews it, then gives the comments on email or verbal or something. Then we start collecting in Excel sheets, shares the comments, discussed comments on the email, or just go to the each somebody else desk and discuss it. Then next phase is we try to compile it or run it on some uh, system, maybe our own system, and then next phase starts, and then we give it to the testing team, and they start testing, and then they suddenly find some binary is missing, some functionality is not missing, uh, correct, or this particular functionality has been broken. Then they go back to the product coder and developers, and developer says, no, it is working on my machine, how can you say it is not working? Then that cycle just keeps on repeating. So so there are a lot of people involved, lot of emotions involved, lot of intervention from somebody, peer or somebody, your supervisor needs to come into and get the thing settled. So what does this makes? This makes the things very complicated. There's lot of stress, strain, we always start looking for some other frameworks, to make the things easier. Correct. So those kind of things comes into, and then uh, this SDLC life cycle, just repeating the whole life cycle becomes very tedious. So you do a one change, and then that whole change going into production takes a very long time. And if you have to fix another things, then that itself takes another long journey of whole SDLC life cycle. So when we say zero touch deployment, it is basically utilizing the uh, DevOps pipelines to automate some of the things or most of the things which normally, which are repetitive. uh, Correct. Then we also add the loopback feedback mechanism. So that feedback mechanism is like whenever one step happens, that feedback goes to the concerned person, so they know. For example, if somebody compiles it and compilation fails, so they developers and reviewers, they get a notification via whatever the mechanism, Slack, email, or whatever it could be, like that uh, build has been broken, and this is the stack trace or whatever compilation error logs are there. So developers, they know something is wrong there, and they can just go and fix it. So that is where whole process is automated, along with proper feedback loops are also added. So this is where the zero touch deployment we talk about. So if we say whole planning, then coding, building, testing, releasing, deploying it to the production environment, operational and monitoring. So all these steps are involved in zero touch deployment. So going forward, we will see how each and every step uh, helps in achieving the zero touch deployment. So now if we see, just going back to what is a DevOps and why it is important. So DevOps is nothing but development plus operations. Dev plus ops. So dev is basically when you automate the uh, code and code compilation part plus deployment part. So it's basically like the CI plus CD, and then you also add the operational part to it. So basically, whenever your build is deployed, you are continuously monitoring it, and as well as you are getting the notifications about the state of your software and deployed hardware. So that is what our DevOps is. Basically, it's just automating the whole SDLC life cycle. So what are its advantages? First advantage is speed. So now just the story which I started with, whole SDLC life cycle, where developer develops something, correct, and tester finds something is broken. So everything takes time. So developer takes some time to code it, compile it, test it, correct. So that is now can be automated. So that helps in as soon as code is checked in, compilation is automatically done, correct. The proper feedback or notification is sent to developers, then that is automatically deployed. uh, Developers can do the end-to-end testing, correct, and then same build is deployed in pre-production or whatever you call it, and testers can directly test it. And before that, whole end-to-end test cases are also executed, so that it does not break any functionality. So everything happens automatically, and tester gets a clean build which does not contains very trivial bugs, like some library missing or some other functionality which has been broken. So this helps developers and testers to commit more frequently, correct. Testers can also make sure they get the clean code, and they only have to test whatever functionality which has been added or modified. So this helps in putting change into system more faster, correct. And this also ultimately helps in giving the release more frequently, fixing more bugs faster, uh, making the build or product more stable. Then second part is obviously rapid test delivery, which we just talked about. If you have this kind of a system available, uh, if you get some bug from production environment, uh, you fix the bug, put it into the system, then whole life cycle is automated, and uh, that functionality can be tested itself. And so basically whole thing which used to be manual, that has been compacted, compressed into a shorter lifespan, and that release can go to the market much faster, and with more reliable uh, testing. So next part is reliability. Obviously, if you have more test cases automated, if you can test more functionality in terms of regression or feature testing, which are automatically triggered as soon as some changes push into the system. So that helps in increasing the reliability of the system. So if I just take an traditional way of uh, software development, what happens, like, if some change is done, correct, and sometimes what happens, like, from production we get a very urgent uh, bug, correct, so, and that has a very small SLA, for example 2 day or 3 day, and that has to be fixed, because whole, that is a kind of a showstopper bug kind of a thing. So in that case, what happens, there is a pressure on the developer as well as testers. So developers do some kind of like, hot fixing, and not realizing the impact on the overall system. And testers also, like, they also have a pressure to deliver it. They also does a no, testing just around that particular bug. But when it goes to the production, then again, like, a new bug comes into light, and then whole no, products, what you can say, reliability and trust, that is shaken. So if you have a whole pipeline which, just like, as soon as you put it into a change, it is compiled, it's deployed, and all the test cases, if that is already there, you test everything. So in that way, like, you can make your product more robust, reliable. Even a small fix can, or even small or big fix can be given, knowing, like, you already have a test cases, they will test, no, not just area around that bug fix, but other functionality also, so that it does not break any other existing functionality. So that gives a positive experience for the end user also, as well as, like, fix can be easily uh, delivered. Then scale, obviously, like, if you have this kind of pipeline, so you can scale up your infrastructure. So normally what happens, like, if I take an example, so if in production, if you have a very big huge system, so in that case what happens, like, uh, so for example, you have a 200 cores and your application is deployed in 200 cores, but in production environment you are not able to replicate those. So uh, using these pipelines, you can scale down the infrastructure, test it, and before the production, you can also scale up and do the live testing itself before actual deployment happens. So it's like, no, if you have infrastructure as a code integrated in your pipeline, so you can just create 200 instances, test your product, and just shut down the instances to save the cost of your infrastructure. Then next point is the improved collaboration. So I just explained, like, uh, so basically DevOps is nothing, just it's not just like, you have a pipeline, and you are doing the DevOps. So DevOps is a cultural shift, basically, like, everybody has to be aligned. So uh, so what happens, like, everybody has to understand their responsibility from DevOps perspective. So what happens, like, if you have a proper feedback going to the proper concerned person, then it helps in improve collaboration. So if I just give an example, uh, for example, something is deployed already on a production environment, and you find a bug is there, and if you have a proper monitoring system available, so for example, I take an example, like, what for example, simplest thing, like, you have an email plugin, or like, some functionality where email is supposed to go to all the customers on a one particular day. So you are supposed to send for example 500 or 1 million of emails, but during that time, if you get an alarm, like, you are not able to push more than x number of emails, if you have that particular alarm, and that alarm basically send notification to all the concerned persons, then that bug or that bottleneck can be corrected at a right time. So it does not impact the end user. So basically end user still, like, you have a time to fix it, and end user will get the emails at a proper time. And last part, which I say, like, what DevOps helps in is security. So though there are not many products available, but going forward, like for GDPR, no, there are certain tools which can help you to check the compliance policies. So, like for example, whether you are putting some PI information, personally identifiable information, in your audit logs. So there are certain tools they can identify, and they can help you in compliance. So as you remember, GDPR is very strict in with respect to PI information. If you put in some information in audit log, for example, somebody's email or phone number, which can help in identifying a particular person, then GDPR imposes very high penalties. So, compliance to securities or compliance to different policies is very important. So, this DevOps helps in achieving those compliance. Okay. So, now I will discuss about the developers burnout. So, what happens, what is basically a developer's burnt out? So as most of us are developers, like developers in terms like we develop code, or some, like even if we are tester, we are developing some testing frameworks. So what happens, ever increasing and broadening workload can lead to developers burnout. So if I say this statement, so what happens normally, being a Java developer, if I have say I'm a Java developer, I have to develop a piece of a Java code. But normally, if I say that is just a 20% of my job in day-to-day activity, but I have to do many other jobs, to write that 20% of my daily day. So if I have to write 20 lines of code, I have to set up the system, I have to set up the compiler, I have to write the code, I have to set the UT cases, set up the setup where I can execute my end-to-end scenarios. So that is like you know so extra work attached to that 20 lines or 200 lines of code can get developers into a burnout state where he's stressed, he's basically he's not able to focus on solving his business problem. So as you know, many of us, many of the days we are just uh, doing the some other works, just setting up the unit test cases and other things, but we are not able to write the those 200 lines of code. And if we get that time, no, it's just one day is there, and we just do a very small uh, workaround, and we don't write the proper or good business logic. So uh, so I just talked about developers spend time building non-code solutions, and technical depth just keeps on increasing, and features are pushed out, or we get a very less time to develop the features, which ultimately increases the workload, frustration, and decreases the uh, work quality. So what is the solution of this burnout? Uh, so first part is we should have like you know we should automate the repetitive tasks. Correct. Developers should not focus on developing non-core frameworks. Instead, it should be sourced from outside, or it should be there in a central location. So if I say if I have to execute a unit test case, or if I have to compile my code, so I don't need to compile it on my machine. So that whole setup should be there in the central server, where I just write a code, and uh, that just gets compiled in a central server. So in that way, I don't have to do or I don't have to set up my build environment in my local machine. So, and similarly, communication and collaboration is very important. So, the because the lack of communication is the biggest source of failure. Just just take an example. If developers develop something and give it to the tester, and testers test something, and he forgets to inform the developer on that particular day, like this is a bug, and then you have a Saturday, Sunday, and Monday developer comes to know like there was a bug and he has to fix it. But if you had a mechanism where as soon as that test case gets failed, developer gets a notification, then developers since that change is fresh in his mind, he can just go and fix it at the moment and give the build. So this helps in delaying the uh, fixed delivery. So this communication and collaboration is biggest thing. So that if you have a proper communication and collaboration, then uh, we can have a we can reduce this burnout for a developer. Then release and deployments. So deploy code more frequently. So what it means, if I'm able to commit more frequently and that is tested more frequently. So if I just commit and if I know I have everything automated, if I push a change, it is automatically built, deployed. Whole end-to-end testing is done on that part. Even your code coverage is done, and just I get the final reports like this is my code coverage after change, and these are test cases which have failed, or all test cases are all green. So that will encourage a developer to push changes more frequently. He can commit more frequently, correct? And this whole basically commit very frequently can help in giving out releases which are more stable, correct? And releases can be more frequent because we are able to reduce or compress this whole development life cycle. Then if we have an incidence resolution, so this incidence resolution is also a part of communication and collaboration. But for example, uh, if we have an alert mechanism system, so when for example some scenario fails, user login fails, and then if you are able to get the alert this user login failed, and this is the reason. So that kind of information to developer or operation teams helps in incidents resolution. So that can also help developers to get more logs, more information when something failure happens. So, okay, and then obviously you have to automate the repetitive tasks, uh, which are biggest pain point for any developer, or even for a tester also. Like if, for example, from tester mindset, if he has to test same scenario manually again and again, that also helps in the burnout of a developer or tester, whatever. I never say a tester, but I always say he's also a developer. He's developing frameworks. So if running the whole end-to-end test case is also automated, so that also takes off a very big pressure from the testers, and they can just focus on testing the new functionalities, improving the test cases, improving the other reporting mechanisms, so they can use their time more effectively and in more constructive way. So now this is the one of the typical example of zero touch DevOps pipeline. So we will spend some time on this slide. So if I see this is a whole automation of a SDLC lifecycle. So if I see first part is the developer. So as soon as developers pushes some code to the repository, which can be a GitLab, GitHub, or any other SCM repository, then uh, like that notification is sent to the uh, whosoever is a reviewer. So reviewers can now do the reviews. They can basically review the code, and everything is okay. They can give the go ahead, and that code uh, is okay, and then that can further trigger the next steps. So basically here what we are saying, the code before like as soon as code is checked in, notification is sent to reviewers do the reviews, and they give their review comments if there are any, and if everything is okay, then it can go to the next step, which is build and test. Here the code is basically checked out. So here in this example, Jenkins is the basic heart of the CI/CD pipeline, or I would say the DevOps pipeline. So it controls every steps which job needs to be done after which step. So once the build and test is done, the code is checked out, it is compiled, and during the compilation, you can do multiple things, like you can run the test cases, you can do the static code analysis, you can do the code coverage, you can do a security analysis of, like your external libraries if you are using. Then you can archive the artifacts, and as a loopback mechanism, these test reports can be sent to the like whosoever is the concerned person, maybe the whole developer team can be there, or just the developer and their reviewers and their manager. So that can be easily configured, who are the recipients. Then since we are taking the example of, like dockerized pipeline, so here the next step is packaging of that artifacts. So here, for example, in this case, a Docker image is being compiled, and then tagging of Docker image, and then pushing to the central repository is done. So that central repository can be anything, like your local private repository or a public repository. The next part is, now we have done the code compilation, we have packaged the binary. Now it is next time is to do the testing. So it's basically a continuous testing. So it doesn't require any human intervention. Everything is automatically triggered. So if you have some database upgrades or something, so that can be taken as a part of database migration. So if you have added some new column or upgraded basically updated type of a particular column, so those can be done on a database. Then we can deploy container to our continuous integration, then run the integration tests, so basically do the end-to-end testing on the deployed binaries. uh, if you have a load testing or security testing already done, so you can perform those things, and then you can publish your whole reports, so that everybody is aware what is the uh, final result or outcome, whether your test cases are okay, if some are fails, what are the test cases which are failed, so corrective action can be taken. So this is again the loopback mechanism for better collaboration and communication. So then you have a next phase, which is a deploy. So in most of the cases, this deployment basically is manual, or in some of the cases is automated, because it might happen, like you push some change, everything is okay, but time is not correct, because from customers, they just give you a small window where you can basically deploy your binaries, so that your their end to end customer, they are not impacted. So let's assume, like if it is also automated, so that can be deployed based upon, like whether your test reports were okay, and those kind of a different conditions can be calculated as a part of this expression. Then obviously, like then you have a chat ops, uh, then whatever has been deployed, that can be continuously monitored, and if there is some alarms or alerts, that can be uh, published via mail or notifications. So this is what the uh, zero touch uh, DevOps pipeline conceptually works. So there can be deviations depending upon the customer's requirement or your requirement. Some of the things which may not be possible like for example, I just discussed the deployment. In some of the cases, automatic deployment might not be possible. So this needs a uh, human trigger, right? So somebody needs to say like, now it is the correct time. Just press this button, deploy, and then deployment will basically start automatically. So till now, any questions? Anybody is having any question? Because now we just discussed the mere core part of the zero touch DevOps.
So, Anil, let me just take this opportunity to hijack your session for a minute.
Yeah.
So, our sincere thanks to all the attendees. So, this is Dheeraj speaking from DevOps Guru team. And uh, while uh, while you compile your questions and post them to Anil to field them, I would like to share with you this new initiative which some of us have come together and are working on. So our community is a small startup community with a purpose to actually eliminate the friction which is there in software product engineering. DevOps is the bedrock of what we are trying to bring as a solution to the industry. And at the same time, we are inviting uh, other other colleagues from the industry to be part of the community and help each other grow professionally and make product engineering a more mature and enjoyable discipline. Uh, the session today talks a lot about how to reduce the friction, how to make the entire development process more enjoyable, and eventually, once you start enjoying it, you start becoming more productive. So please join us wherever you can find time, whatever time you can find. We welcome any contribution in terms of volunteering, and we look forward to meeting you at different events that we keep organizing. So, any questions for Anil or for anyone else? We'll be happy to take them now. Or any other information anybody needs about the community.
So Dheeraj, I think there was one question on the chat. So it was regarding the sessions, how they can access the session. So I would like to say, like, no, each session which we are giving as a part of this webinar, we are these are being recorded, and no, we are regularly putting them into our YouTube channel. So stay tuned to our site, which is edevopsguru.com. So there you will get the link to access all previous as well as coming webinar sessions.
Thanks, Anil. And a humble request to all of you, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Insta. We are there on all social media platforms, and encourage your friends, colleagues to at least read about us. And if they find it interesting and useful, they can follow us. We are launching a mentoring program. This is a special initiative which is free of cost mentoring program next month on DevOps and security. It's an entry level program which we called Bootcamp. If you are interested either to mentor people who are in need or to get mentored in case you need awareness of these technologies, please do sign up. I'm sure it's going to be an enriching session, whether you join as a mentor or as a mentee. And of course, you will make good friends and network all along the way. So if there are no questions, Anil, is there more for today's sessions which you would like to continue?
Uh, let's see. I think most of the things we already have covered. So, So so all these things we have already covered as a part of discussion which we had. So I would just like to take 5 minutes and talk about the tools which are mostly used in the industry. So this is the last slide, and then we can
Okay,
close up.
so before you start, the mentoring program which is being launched next month will coach you on all these tools. So, which means that if you want to learn any or all of them and have real live project experience, hands-on experience, want to get your hands dirty on these tools, and learn from the experts, please join as a mentee. And if you are already an expert on these, you want to take a session or two or even more, you are welcome. And we promote new mentors and speakers. So this is something that would form the bedrock of our coaching program next month. Go ahead, Anil.
So as Judge explained, in coming boot camp, so we will be covering the complete DevOps, including how it is used. We will take up a few examples, cover up each and every phase. What are the common tools being used? We will give you a hands-on information experience. What are the different configurations? What are the how to integrate different tools? Uh, so that would really help anybody who wants to shape their career into DevOps or DevSecOps, because they will have a real industry extracted information, uh, extracted course, correct. So they can just take that knowledge and start applying to a actual project, maybe into a new job or maybe to the existing job. So in that particular program, we will be covering the whole life cycles, right from the code, build, test, release, deploy, operate, and monitor. So we will be covering almost all these tools. For example, I just take a simple example of a code where we will be see how Git or Git based SCM tools like GitLab, GitHub, they are used, how they are integrated with the CI/CD tools, for example, Jenkins, how you can create the whole zero touch pipeline which we discussed today using these different tools. We will also touch upon concepts where you can create infrastructure using a code, right? So using Terraform or AWS tools. So so I think there is one question. Let's take that question, and then I think we can close as we are just about to. We just have a 5 minutes. So I think question is when the code is committed to Git by a developer, it is called deployment. So that is a good question. So code committing to Git by a developer is not a deployment. Deployment is basically when you have an artifact or binary. For example, let's say if you have a, war file and you want to run into a Tomcat. So how would you copy that war file into a Tomcat and then do the restart? Correct? And then how would you execute your end-to-end test cases with that particular deployed binary? So that is a part of a deployment. But committing a code is just a normal source code management part, where how do you commit, how do you maintain your branches, and those kind of a things. So this is a good question. I think this is one of the question which comes to everybody's mind. So, but as a part of bootcamp, we will be covering details as uh, uh, deep as what uh, Mahima has highlighted. So we will cover from 20,000 feet view to the ground level view, so that when we go to the real life projects, we know what is happening, how it is happening, and what to do in different situations. So that was a good question. So any other question before we close for today? Okay, fine. So I think we are about to close our session. So it was a very useful session. Uh, Good questions, good response, and we covered 20,000 feet view of DevOps and zero touch uh, pipeline using a Jenkins pipe using a Jenkins. So